The United States government owes $36 trillion. Japan owes $10 trillion. China owes $15 trillion. The European Union combined carries debt that makes your mortgage look like a parking ticket. And here's what nobody talks about. A massive chunk of that debt is owed to themselves, not metaphorically. Literally, governments borrow from their own central banks, which create the money to lend, which gets paid back with interest that circles back into government coffers, which funds programs that issue bonds that get bought by the central bank. It's a loop. A very large, very expensive loop that somehow keeps the entire global economy from collapsing. You've probably heard the phrase debt ceiling thrown around every few years, like it's the financial apocalypse. Politicians scream about fiscal responsibility while simultaneously voting to raise the limit so they can borrow more. The news cycles panic. Markets wobble, then everyone agrees to kick the can down the road, and life continues. But underneath all that theater is a question nobody seems to want to answer directly. If everyone owes money, and everyone is also owed money, who actually holds the bill when the music stops? This isn't about whether debt is good or bad. That argument is tired and misses the point entirely. This is about understanding a system that functions on a logic so circular it would make a philosophy professor's head spin. Because once you see how government debt actually works, who owns it, and why it keeps growing regardless of which party is in power, you start to realize the whole thing runs on a kind of collective agreement that has equal parts genius and absurdity. We're going to walk through this step by step. How government debt gets created. Who buys it? Why central banks are both the lender and kind of sort of the bot. What happens when a country owes debt in its own currency versus someone else's? And why the biggest holders of U.S. Treasury bonds aren't China or oil-rich nations or mysterious billionaires, but entities you've probably never thought about. By the end, you'll understand why this system works, why it's fragile, and why the question of ownership is far stranger than anyone admits in public. Let's start with the simplest version, then complicate it until it looks like the real thing. When a government spends more money than it collects in taxes, it runs a deficit. That deficit has to be funded somehow. Governments can't just print cash and hand it out, at least not directly in most modern economies, because that path leads to inflation spirals and currency collapse. So instead, they borrow. They borrow by issuing bonds. A bond is a promise. You give the government $1,000 today, and the government promises to pay you back that $1,000 in 10 years, plus interest every year until then. It's a loan with extra steps and a fancy name. Investors like bonds because they're considered safe, especially U.S. Treasury bonds, which are backed by the largest economy on earth and a government that has never defaulted on its debt. That perfect repayment record makes treasuries the global standard for risk-free assets, even though nothing is truly risk-free. So, who buys these bonds? The list is longer and weirder than you'd think. Foreign governments buy them. China and Japan are the two largest foreign holders of U.S. debt, with China holding around $800 billion and Japan holding over $1 trillion as of late 2024. They buy treasuries because they need somewhere safe to park the dollars they earn from trade surpluses. When China sells electronics to the United States, it gets paid in dollars. It can't spend all those dollars at home because its domestic economy runs on yuan, so it buys U.S. government bonds, which are stable, liquid, and pay interest. It's not charity, it's pragmatic financial management. American institutions buy them, pension funds, insurance companies, mutual funds. These entities need stable, predictable returns to match their long-term obligations. If you're managing a pension fund that has to pay out benefits in 30 years, you're not gambling that money on cryptocurrency or biotech startups. You're buying treasury bonds. Individual investors buy them. Savings bonds, treasury bills, notes. Your grandmother might own some. They're boring, but they're safe. And in a world of volatility, boring can be valuable. And then there's the Federal Reserve, the Central Bank of the United States. This is where things get strange. The Federal Reserve is technically independent of the federal government. but it's also created by Congress, and its mandate is to stabilize prices and maximize employment, which are very much government concerns. When the economy needs stimulus, or when there's a crisis, the Fed can buy government bonds in massive quantities. It does this through a process called open market operations. The Fed creates money, electronically, and uses that money to purchase treasury bonds from banks and other financial institutions. This isn't printing cash in the literal sense. The Fed doesn't run a printing press in the basement. It credits accounts. It adds numbers to a ledger, and in doing so, it increases the money supply, which flows into the economy, which theoretically encourages spending and investment. But here's the weird part. When the Fed buys a treasury bond, the interest payments on that bond eventually flow back to the Treasury. The Fed is required by law to return its profits to the federal government after covering its own operating expenses. So the government borrows money, pays interest on that borrowed money, and then gets most of that interest back because the lender is functionally part of the government. It's like borrowing $100 from your left pocket, paying your left pocket $5 in interest, and then having your left pocket give you $4.50 back at the end of the year. You're out 50 cents. But the money mostly just moved in a circle. This is how the Federal Reserve holds over $5 trillion in U.S. government debt as of late 2024. It's the single largest holder of treasuries, more than any foreign country, more than any private institution. And while it's legally independent, its existence is entirely predicated on supporting the U.S. financial system, which is inseparable from the U.S. government. So when people ask who owns government debt, a huge portion of the answer is the government owns it, indirectly, through the central bank that it created and controls in all but name. This is true in other countries too. The Bank of Japan holds an enormous percentage of Japanese government bonds. The European Central Bank holds bonds from member nations. The Bank of England holds UK gilts. Central banks around the world have become the lenders of last resort, and often the lenders of first resort, to their own governments. It's a system that works until you stop and think about it for too long.